Welcome to episode 42 of our ComfyUI tutorial series. Today I will show you how I use the Inpaint and Outpaint features in ComfyUI. I talked about this in episode 19, but there have been some updates to the nodes used, so we can now get even better results. I will walk you through my process with different workflows, so stick around if you want to learn more. Open ComfyUI, go to Workflows, and click Open. From there, you can open an Inpainting or Outpainting workflow. I've created 3 Inpainting and 3 Outpainting workflows, so you can use them even if you don't have a lot of video memory. I've made these for SD 1.5, SDXL, and Flux models, and as usual, all of them are free to download from Discord. Let's start with an easy-to-use and understand workflow, like the SDXL. As you saw in recent workflows, I started including everything you need in this node. For this simple workflow, you only need one model and one node. Click on the download link, go to the models folder, then to the checkpoints folder, and save the model there. If you want to learn more about the model, click here and the Civit AI webpage will open. You'll see that it's an inpainting model, which is a bit different from a regular model, more specialized for inpainting. You can read about the settings here, but I've already set up the workflow with the correct settings. For the custom node, you'll need the crop and stitch node. If you don't have it, go to the manager, click on Custom Nodes Manager, search for crop stitch, and you should find this node made by Luis. Then, just click the install button that appears and restart ComfyUI. If you already have the node, make sure you update it by clicking the Update All button because only the new version has these nodes. If I go back to the Custom Nodes Manager and look at the node, you can click on the title and it will open the GitHub page for that node where you can learn more about it. You can also see all the updates Luis made and what was improved. Once you have everything updated and ComfyUI restarted, we can start using the workflow. You should see the Inpaint model listed in the Load Checkpoint section. Click on the Choose File button to upload an image. I'll select this woman. Now, right-click on the image and select Open in Mask Editor because we need to mask the area we want to inpaint. In this interface, you can choose the brush type. It can be a circle or square shape. Use square for buildings or shapes with straight lines. You can also adjust the brush size with the thickness option, and then you can start painting over the image. It's not permanent, so you can adjust it as needed. I'll mask her hair because I want to change her hairstyle. You can adjust the mask opacity to see better what's behind it. I usually make the mask slightly bigger than the subject to help it blend better. It doesn't need to be exact. I make sure not to include the eyebrows because I want to keep the face intact. Select the entire hair, even the small bits. If your mask is too big or you want to erase something, right-click to switch to the eraser tool. It's very easy to mask. You can also invert the mask, which will inpaint everything except the hair, but I don't want that in this case. You also have the eraser on the left, the paint bucket, and undo, redo buttons at the top. You can clear the mask and start over, or you can save it from here. By the way, if the mask editor is moving very slowly, a quick fix could be to go to your browser settings. I use Chrome, so I go to Settings, search for Acceleration, and make sure the option called Use Hardware Acceleration when available is enabled. Once you're happy with the mask, save it. It will look like this. The gray area on the hair is actually transparency. It's a hole that lets you see the gray node background. If you change the node color to purple, you will see it in purple. You'll notice it doesn't have the original woman PNG file name anymore. It says clipspace and then clipspace mask. What does this mean? If you go to the input folder, you'll find a clipspace folder. There, you can see that ComfyUI saved the masked image. If you open it, you can see it's transparent, and you can notice it better if you turn on the transparency grid. So basically, when we generate now with AI, we'll generate something in the masked area, and the rest will stay intact. Now that we have the mask done, we need a prompt that describes what we want to generate in the masked area. Let's say I add purple curly hair to the prompt. Then I click Run. So what's happening now? The image and the mask from the image we uploaded are processed by the Inpaint crop node. You'll see that the new version has improved in the title. This node crops the area around our selection. In this case, it's set to a square and 1024 pixels, as I configured it here. The crop is slightly larger than our selection to provide some context of what's around it, which helps generate a more accurate result. This is set with the extend factor. A 1.2 extend factor is like 20% larger, while 2 would be double the size of the original, and so on. Now we have a cropped image and mask that goes to the Inpaint model conditioning, then to the K-sampler where the magic happens and the AI generates something new based on the prompt we gave and the settings in the K-sampler. You can leave the settings as they are, but if you adjust the denoise settings, a lower value will make the new hair look more similar to the original, while a higher value gives more freedom for the AI to create a different hairstyle. Once the hair is finished, it's placed back into the original image through the mask, so we can see the new hair while keeping everything else intact. The same pixels, the same face, only the hair has changed. This is very useful. If I generate again, I get a new variation. Depending on your computer, smaller models like SD and SDXL are very fast. On my RTX 4090, it only takes a few seconds. If you have less video memory, you can use an even smaller model like an SD model, like I used here with Epic Realism in this workflow. Just download it from the link. Let's test it again. This time we'll move a little faster, load the image, right-click, and open it in the mask editor. Let's paint over the red t-shirt so we can replace it with something else. Save it when you're done. Go to the prompt and describe what you want, like a black dress. Adjust the denoise. I'll leave it at 1 because I want a completely new dress. If I had wanted to adjust the shape slightly or change the red color hue of the old dress, I could have reduced the denoise. Let's run it. As you can see, it runs pretty fast with these small models, and you can try many variations since it won't always look perfect on the first try. Besides being fast, another advantage is that these models aren't censored like some others. You can prompt exactly what you want and get what you asked for. The downside is that while they can understand short prompts, they're not as good with complex ones like the Flux model can handle. So if you want more control and better prompt understanding, for me, Flux still works better, but it's slower and more censored. For the Flux model, it's very simple. We just need a few more nodes to make it work. If we look at the SD workflow, we only had the model and 1 node, and we loaded the model in the load checkpoint section. For SDXL, the same approach applies, where we load the Juggernaut Inpaint model, but for Flux, to make it run faster, I added the UNet Loader GUF with a Flux Fill version. The GUF models are much smaller and faster than the original Flux Fill. And of course, we need the dual clip models. It also has the Flux guidance node you're used to, with the guidance set to 30, not 3.5 like we used to set in the Flux Dev model. As an extra, I added a clean VRAM node to make it smoother the second time and reduce the chances of getting stuck. All the information is here. You download the model and place it in the diffusion models folder. I use the Q8 version because it has better quality, but you can use a smaller one. Here's the list of all the models you can try. A smaller Q number means smaller size but lower quality. So choose one that works for you. If Q3 is still too large for your system, just use the SDXL or SD version instead. Also, download the T5 model and place it in the clip folder. There are smaller sizes available for that one too. Here, I used an alternative to Clip L, but it works with Clip L as well. Don't forget the Flux VAE we always use with Flux. For custom nodes, we have these 3. The crop and stitch node we used in other workflows, the Comfy Easy node if you want to use the clear VRAM node like I did, and the GGUF node to load the GGUF models. Once you install these, you should be good to go. Let's load the woman's photo, open it in the mask editor, and mask the hair. Once done, save it. You'll notice I have a small gap in the mask. I can go back into the mask editor and fix it, or if the mask fill holes option is active, it will automatically fill those holes for me. However, if you don't want the holes to be filled, maybe you want to mask around the eyes, but keep the eyes intact, you can disable that option. By default, it is enabled. The output target width and height refers to the size that the crop is processed at. It's not the final image size, which is the same size as your uploaded image. It's the size of the crop and the image that goes to the K sampler, so you should adjust it based on your model. For SD 1.5, use around 512 pixels. And for other models, 1024 pixels should work fine. You can play around with different sizes, but for me, Square dimensions were usually just right. Depending on your mask, whether it's tall or wide, you can adapt the crop to ensure it has enough context. You can also invert the mask here so you can inpaint everything except the hair in this case. By default, this option is deactivated. If you go to the node settings page, you can find explanations for each setting and what it does. I mostly use the default values and just make adjustments when necessary. If I run the workflow, I get this result. With Flux, I get really nice blends and textures, very realistic. Many times I get better results than with the generate fill feature in Photoshop. I can also provide more complex prompts like asking for curly blonde hair and black glasses. Look at how good the result is. In terms of speed, compared to SDXL, which does it in 5 seconds, Flux takes around 30 seconds. So it's much slower, but the quality and prompt understanding are higher with Flux. It's not perfect, as we'll see later with some cases where it doesn't work, but overall it's a great tool for modifying images. Let's test it with a prompt like blue hair. Now for other models, the denoise value can be low and still change the result, but let's see what happens with Flux. If I use 0.6, I get a very small variation and the blue color isn't visible. At 0.75, I get another variation, but still no blue. For other models, we would have already seen the blue, but with Flux, it has a much higher denoise, especially when using the SGM uniform. At 0.85, I start to see a little color change, but not much. So for Flux, depending on the image and prompt, some changes might only start to happen with a denoise value over 0.85, for example. At 0.95, I get blue hair, and at a value of 1, I get a different shade of blue hair. So it's best to start with a denoise value of 1, and if the result is too different, you can slowly reduce the value. Let's open the image again with the mask editor. Now, let's say we want to add something much bigger, like a hat. To do that, I'll need to expand the mask so there's enough space to add the hat. Otherwise, it might try to add a tiny hat if it can. So I'll expand the mask like this and save it. For the prompt, I'll add black hair and a purple vintage hat with a feather. Here's the result. It looks like I misspelled hat. So let me correct that and try again. After fixing it, here's the new result. Now the hat and the feather are visible. Let me try a different seed, and I got this one. The results are quite good. You can't see where it blends with the original image. I really like it, and it also has nice texture. Now, what if we want to keep this image and add more elements? We can right-click on the image and select Copy Image, then go to the Load node and use Ctrl+V to paste the image. Now we can open this image in the mask editor. I'll quickly select the red t-shirt and save the image. For the prompt, I'll adjust it so she's wearing a purple dress. Here's the result. The color is similar, but I'm not happy with the texture, so I'll generate again. You could add more specific details in the prompt, like the type of dress and material, so the model can generate what you want rather than letting it decide. This one looks good. It seems like the model tried to match the texture of the dress with the hat. Now we can copy this new image and paste it again to load it for more changes. I also included an outpainting workflow, but you can adapt this inpainting process to do outpainting as well. Just make sure there's no masking on the loaded image, then enable the extend option for outpainting. Inpainting edits or restores areas within an image, while outpainting adds new content outside the image boundaries to expand it, so we can extend the image up, down, left, or right, depending on how we want it. Let's say I want to extend it to the left. A factor of 1 means no extension beyond the original boundary in that direction. A factor of 2 means you're adding the original image width on the left side. So the left side is extended by the same amount as the image's original width. This causes the image to stretch as AI needs either existing image data or noise to build something. The node stretches the image to add extra pixels that will be used to generate an image in that area. However, the problem is that the context only sees those stretched pixels, and when it generates the new image, it can be too different. Let's say I use 1.5. Again, depending on the context, it might work, but sometimes it might be too much. If I run it now, you'll see that it stretched those pixels, but not the entire image, only half. You can still see the girl in the image. Let me cancel, and now let's look at the prompt. The challenging part with outpainting is figuring out how to integrate something naturally into the new area. Let's say I add a street with buildings. It added that, but it doesn't feel like a continuation of the original image. Let me try again. This time I'll prompt for a woman on the street with a blurred background. The result is this. Again, it added a woman, but it doesn't seem natural. By the way, I tested using the same value of 1.5 for the factor going downward, and it worked. But on the left side, it didn't seem to have enough context. So what do? We reduce the extension factor to 1.3, for example, and let's see what happens now. We can now see more of the woman in the crop, and the result is this. And look at that. It worked. So play around with the settings. If something doesn't work, reduce the value. Let's test again with a different prompt, like street with buildings, and look at that. Now it's perfect. It added a car there, and it looks like it belongs. Now, let's say I want to expand the image downward instead of to the left. I'll reset the extend factor to 1 for the left and extend 1.3 down. It worked with 1.5 as well, but let's keep it safe. For the prompt, I'll add a woman on the street, and let's run it. You can see how it stretched the image here, giving it some pixels to work with. And here's the result. Let me test a different seed. This one has a bad hand, so it's not good. Let's try another seed. This one works, and I like it. So I have the outpainting workflows saved separately for each model. You can just load and expand it for your image, setting the right direction and prompt. Let's now look at some other problems you might face when doing inpainting. I'll open this image of a bunny. I'll open the mask editor and select this plate. After saving the image, I'll prompt for a cartoon vase with red roses on the table. When I run it, I notice that I'm in the Outpaint option. So I cancel the run, disable the extend for outpainting option, and run the workflow again. Now I can see that the crop is correct, showing the plate. The result looks like this. Because I mentioned cartoon, it tried to add a cartoon design on the vase. So don't mention the style in the prompt because the model already knows what to do from context in most cases. Let's try a different prompt. A porcelain vase with red roses. This time I got something that isn't quite a vase, but it is definitely porcelain. It focused on the word porcelain and didn't add roses because I didn't specify how I wanted them. So it gave me a random result. That happens when you don't describe your prompt accurately. It might work fine with SDXL, but with Flux, you need more detailed descriptions. Let's try again. On the table, there is a small vase with one red rose. Now, it did work because the model saw other vases on the table. It tried to add a similar one. The two vases look similar, and that's a good result. Sometimes the model tries to match what it sees in the context. So if it doesn't do what you want, it's because it's trying to match what's around it. Now, the main problem is when you try to remove something. For example, let's say I don't want a plate or a vase. I just want nothing. In Photoshop, you can use the remove option or leave an empty prompt, and it will remove the object for you. But here, the model always adds random objects. It depends on the image and what's around it. I tried adding a prompt for an empty wooden table, but I got this result. Again, I think it looked at the other tables which had something on them and tried to match that context. Let's try adding a specific object like a small ball on the table. Now, the model worked great. When you're specific about what you want to add, it works well. So you can replace one subject with another, but when you try to remove something, the model can struggle. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. How can we remove objects? I'm not sure if there's a easy solution in this workflow. Maybe other nodes or models could help, but I always look for the fastest solution. And for me, Photoshop remains the fastest way to remove objects from an image. In Photoshop, you can use the Remove tool to quickly select the area you want to remove, and that's it. If you don't like the result, you can undo and try again by masking a smaller area or using a different shape for the selection. For example, I can quickly remove this object from the ceiling. By the way, I turned off generative fill to make it faster, but you can turn it on for even better results sometimes, or leave it on auto. I could select the entire bunny and remove it. You can turn on generative fill from here. For more control, it's better to use the lasso tool, make a selection around the bunny, a little bigger than the bunny itself, and then use generative fill. You can try it without a prompt, or sometimes it works if I just type remove as the prompt and then click generate. It only takes a few seconds because it's using the cloud, and the best part is that you can choose from 3 different options and pick the one that looks best. You can also use the crop tool and select the generative expand option to extend the image in any direction you want. You can add a prompt or leave it empty to let Photoshop guess from the context. After running the tool, you'll get 3 versions. Sometimes it can create random or strange results like this, but it can also produce good results. Much like in ComfyUI, you can make the crop smaller to get better results. Now, let's try the outpainting in ComfyUI. I'll enable extend for outpainting and expand the image to the left side. For the prompt, I'll use restaurant interior. You can see how it stretches the left side so it has something to work with, and the result is this one. Not bad at all. Better results than Photoshop in this case. Now, let's copy the image and paste it into the load image section. I'll extend it once more to the left, and now we have an even wider image. It's not perfect, but you can keep trying with different seeds until you get the one that works best. I'm copying the image again, pasting it into the load image section, and now I'll open it in the mask editor. I want to place another bunny on the left side, sitting at the table. So I'll mask the area where I think the bunny should be. After saving the mask, I'll add the prompt. A cartoon bunny looking at the other bunny, both sitting at the table. Then I'll disable Outpaint and run it. From the preview, I can already see that it will likely fail because there's no context about how the other bunny looks. And here's the result. It's not what I wanted. So let's see how we can make the bunny visible in the scene. The context mask is currently set to 1.2, which is about 20%. If I set it to 1.5, it still might not be big enough. Sometimes I get a glitch. I'm not sure if it's a bug, where I see a preview from a previous generation instead of the load image. If I set it to 1.8, it's still not big enough. Let me try setting the value to 3. This might be too much, but I'll test it anyway. Now I can clearly see the bunny in the context, so it has enough surrounding information. Here's the result. Look at that, it worked. It got a similar style of bunny, and I like it. Let's see if we can change it, maybe make the bunny pink, and here's the result. It turned out great. So the context really matters. Be sure to check the preview on the crop to see what the model actually sees around the image during inpainting. This will help you get better results. To get the free workflows, just click on the Discord link at the top of the channel. You'll see that there are a lot of people online with over 20,000 members. Click Accept Invite and Discord will open. If you're new to the server, you'll likely land on the Welcome channel, where you'll get a link to different channels. The workflows can be found in the Pixaroma Workflows channel. Here they are organized by each episode. For today's episode, just click on Episode 42 and you can scroll to see all the workflows. The workflows look like this: a JSON file that you drag into your ComfyUI or load through the Workflows menu like I showed you at the beginning of the video. You'll also find instructions and outpainting options along with versions for lower-end video cards. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the ComfyUI channel. That's all for today. If you found something useful, leave a like and a comment to help boost this channel. Thank you, legends, and everyone who subscribed to the membership. I wish you an amazing day, and I'll see you on Discord.